I want to welcome in our all-star political panel right now. We start with our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson. Former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, is with us. Political analyst Mark Halperin is here. Project 21 National Board member Christopher Arps is back with us. And constitutional attorney Amir Benno also here this morning. Emerald, it seemed like the Democrats, they had a very smooth presentation in a Hollywood movie that they put out yesterday for the American people to see. But I also think they sort of gave up their playbook for the midterms, which are still a long way off. But basically the strategy, hammer Trump, hammer this insurrection, and pretend that all of the protests and the violence this summer never happened. Yeah, no,
they made it clear that they're concerned about the political future and the influence of Donald Trump. That wasn't hidden in their impeachment efforts. In their preparation, do keep in mind that Donald Trump had change-ups with his legal team, and they haven't been on board quite as long as the impeachment managers who have been doing impeachment essentially for 4 years now. And the impeachment managers did have a much smoother presentation, but again, I want to point out that that video, while it looked really good and it had a cinematic quality to it, it was devoid of timestamps, even though it was trying to establish a timeline. It also left out the key phrase that former President Trump said during that rally, talking to his followers, saying that they were going to peacefully go to the Capitol. That was not included in the final edit, and that's a major part of the argument for the defense.
And I get that. Let's play that soundbite, by the way, just so the folks at home that are just waking up with us can hear that and kind of be on message with what we're talking about. Here's Donald Trump.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity.
Mark, you want to know why that wasn't a part of that video? Because it's devastating to the House's case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you expect the prosecutors to undermine their own case with their presentation. Certainly don't hear that a lot from the president's lawyers today. And, this video stuff gets a lot of attention. But, I looked around in social media. I looked around local newscasts across the country. I just don't get a sense that a lot of people were spellbound by that video as the House managers were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
never admitted in a court of law. It was an infomercial, and the defense could put up a video of Donald Trump kissing babies and petting puppies. It would have had just as much credibility.
Right. Amir,
I really like what Betsy had to say last hour about it's not about who does the better presentation. It's not for a grade or for high school, that it comes down to the merits and the constitutionality, no matter who was smoother. And I don't think that's getting talked about so much as who did the better job.
Yeah, I mean, so fine. The vote was clear. 6 Republicans sided with the Democrats. I was surprised that Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, a very red state, he was not part of that group of 5 that sided with the Democrats a week and a half ago. Do you think, Chris, that he was swayed by the House manager's statements and argument yesterday?
I think he could have. I also you have to look at it. I don't know when he's up for re-election again, but maybe he
was just re-elected.
What's that, sir?
What's that?
Just re-elected.
Okay, so he's fine. He's got 6 years.
He's just been re-elected. He knows that he has another 6 years, and he is safe. And that's part of the reason why he did that. It was very surprising that he changed his mind from his prior vote.
Amir, this is not a criminal courtroom. So these are defense attorneys that are representing Donald Trump, Bruce Castor, Dave Schoen, but this is not a criminal case. So some of the theatrics that we're used to seeing in criminal law, even though we saw some of that yesterday, doesn't really apply, does it?
Well, theatrics are going to apply in any court, whether it's an impeachment court or a Perry Mason court. I mean, they're trying to connect with the jurors who are the senators. What we didn't see was a focus on the issue, which is jurisdiction. We saw from, the House managers had a very polished presentation, but they went to the merits of the case. When we got to Trump's defense team, they sort of lost their way a little bit. And instead of just focusing on the singular issue of jurisdiction and getting into Senate precedent, they sort of meandered about. I will say that, in the last hour, there was there was commentary by Trump's lawyers about this being an effort to disenfranchise voters by disqualifying President Trump from running again. I didn't know how well that played out, frankly, because the argument that animates the left is that what Trump was trying to do is to overrule the Electoral College, which is a disenfranchisement. So using that word, I think, sort of feeds into their anger and their frustration, and I wasn't sure that that was the best choice.
But it played out very well with the television audience, and that's so important here because this proceeding is going to have a big consequence long term for Trump's political future. And as was noted in the last hour, 74 million people plus, I will emphasize the plus, voted for Trump. And the fact is that they wanted to hear that.
Yeah, Betsy, this is all about 2024 as well. It's a kangaroo court, Amir. I know you said that before, but I think that applies here. Here is Alan Dershowitz, well respected for his legal opinion. Here's Alan Dershowitz on Newsmax yesterday.
No argument. I have no idea what he's doing. I have no idea why he's saying what he's saying. You know, he's introducing himself. I'm a nice guy. I like my senators. I know my senators. Senators are great people. Come on. The American people are entitled to an argument, a constitutional argument.
Dershowitz made those comments, Mark, while Bruce Castor was speaking, and you know, I think that was sort of a real-time reaction to what he was witnessing. But the bottom line is, the president has the truth on his side. So besides the Hollywood movie that we watched yesterday, which went on and on and on with no timestamps, Emerald, which is a great point. You know, do you think that the president's attorneys have a better plan for their 16 hours, which starts today at noon?
Well, one thing we haven't talked about yet, I don't think, is something they did do yesterday that I think really does unite Republicans, not just in the Senate, but around the country, as they played the defense played a video, their own video of previous comments by prominent Democrats who seem to be encouraging on violence themselves and activism themselves. And that, I think, is as strong a case as they can make to remind people that others have used provocative words in the public square, and that doesn't mean everybody's going to be impeached and convicted.
Betsy, do you think that, and this is going to sound crazy to us because we're knee-deep in it and we follow this stuff so closely, but do you think the American people are just fatigued in general? I mean, yesterday I was grabbing the barrels at the end of my driveway, and my neighbor, super nice guy, but you know, I know he watches the news. I can see his TV on when I'm in my house. Not that I'm looking, but I noticed that his TV. He's watching the news, and he didn't even know the impeachment started today. Do you think the American people we care? Do you think the American people care?
Well, they certainly care a lot less than they care about getting a vaccine. When I run into people outside, the one thing they're asking me is, how do I manage that website and finally get an appointment to get a vaccine? Whether they're 80 or 50 or 30, they are so concerned about this, and they are really frustrated that politicians in Washington who have gotten their vaccines could care less.
Yeah. I want to play one final soundbite. This is Bruce Castor, one of the president's attorneys. He was the first to speak yesterday. He's talking here about how common impeachment could become. Take a listen.
This chamber and the chamber across the way will change one day. And partisan impeachments will become commonplace.
Chris, I want to get your reaction to that. That kind of hit home for me. That's scary to think about.
I think it will be commonplace. Look, I'm 54 years old. There's been 4 impeachments in our history, and I've been part of 3 of them in my lifetime. The Democrats have totally politicized impeachment. Republicans have already said, because of the things that Democrats are doing now, that when they come back into power, they're going to do the exact same thing, like taking away, like not seating people on committees like they did with Marjorie Greene. We're going to see payback in the future.
All right, panel, we'll leave it there. You're back with us right after the commercial break. Great conversation there. A lot more to get to after the break, so stick around. Thank you.